Good afternoon, wee foxes. Sorry my camera is still broken, but today we are going to be talking about one of our elements of art, and that will be form. So we've talked about line and color, we've talked about texture, we talked some about space, not a ton, but we did positive and negative shapes at the beginning of the year. And we've talked about shapes some. So today we're going to be talking about form. So what a form is it's called a three-dimensional figure, And a three-dimensional figure is something that looks like it has space around it. So it has a length, a width, and a height. So length is how long something is. Width is how wide or how skinny something is. And height is how tall something is. So a form that is three-dimensional means you can see it from all different sides. And it has height and width and length. So if you see our picture here, we have our shapes. We have our triangle, a rectangle, a square, and a circle. And our shapes are flat. They're 2D shapes. They're just flat on our paper. But they also have a type of form that's with them. So a triangle, when it's in a three-dimensional shape, is called a pyramid. A rectangle in a three-dimensional shape is called a prism. A square in a three-dimensional shape is called a cube. And a circle in a three-dimensional shape is called a sphere. So these are our geometric forms, but there are also organic shaped forms, which is just really any three-dimensional sculpture. So you can hold it in your hand, see it from different sides of the page. So a three-dimensional sculpture. That's like what we did the other week with our recycled materials. That would be a sculpture. That would be a form. We talked about form for that one. So today we're going to be doing a paper sculpture together. We're going to be creating a paper sculpture together. And we'll be using organic form. So we'll be using organic shapes to create our sculpture using form. What we are going to do first is we are going to watch a read aloud of a little story. It's called Iggy Peck Architect. And architects are someone who use form every single day. Architects are the people that build our buildings. They design and build our schools and our houses, the grocery store. We need architects to do all of that. So architects are super important. And Iggy Peck Architect is about a kid architect who uses different things around his house to create buildings and use his creativity. So we are going to bounce over to that, look at Iggy Peck Architect, and then we will get to our activity for the day.
Reality, illustrated by David Roberts. Read by Miss Jill. Young Iggy Peck is an architect and has been since he was 2. When he built a great tower in only an hour with nothing but diapers and glue. "Good gracious, Ignatius," his mother exclaimed. "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." But her smile faded fast as a slight wind blew past, and she realized those diapers weren't clean. "Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty. It stinks." But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn using dirt clods to build a great sphinx. When Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples, and temples from modeling clay. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye, and out on the porch built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. Dear Abe had it made until second grade when his teacher, Miss Lilla Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say: "We do not talk of buildings in here. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings, ancient or new." She said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere, for when she was no more than 7, she had a great fright at a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. On an architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lilith got lost from the group. She was found 2 days later, stuck in an elevator, eating cheese with a French service troupe. After that day, it's quite safe to say, she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that, above all, one ought to avoid them. No ifs, ands, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such terrible talk, but he didn't hear. He sat in the rear while building a castle of chalk. "You, Iggy Pat! Your desk is a wreck! Tear down that castle right now! You will not build in here, is that perfectly clear? Do you need to see Principal Howell?" "No, ma'am," Iggy said. He lowered his head, and his heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed. Now second grade was a bore. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading and writing and arithmetic, Miss Greer took the class to Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream. But they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed and Miss Lilla Greer started to scream. "We're trapped here, oh my! Alas, kids, goodbye!" Her eyes rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a vague groaning sound. Luckily fainted, not yet. The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one bright young man was off hatching a plan, which started with Miss Lilla's shoe. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass was working together as one. And when she came to, Miss Lilla Greer knew that something quite brave had been done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces. And all on the far side, beaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. Boots, tree roots, and string, fruit roll-ups and things, some of which should not mention, were stretched ridge to ridge in a glorious bridge dangling from shoestring suspension. It all became clear to Miss Lilla Greer as she crossed that bridge over the stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than to spend your time building a dream. Now, every week at Blue River Creek Elementary in second grade, all the school kids can hear, along with Miss Greer, how the world's greatest buildings are made. The weekly guest speaker, in a t-shirt and sneakers, talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. And of course, he's the guy who builds towers from high, that brilliant young man, Iggy Pat. The end. Hey, be sure to click subscribe.
So I think that's just such a great little story about building things from different objects around and always using your creativity and not giving up when someone says, no, we're not going to do that here. You can still be creative in other ways when someone tells you that. So we are going to switch over to our project. You'll need a piece of paper, something to color with, and scissors. Remember, if you don't have any of those, that's okay. You can just tag along and watch. But for my friends who do have it, paper, something to draw with, and scissors. Alright guys, so what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be turning our blank sheet of paper, a 2D piece of paper, just look at it from the front, into a form, a sculpture. So remember, a form, it has width, height, and length. So we're going to turn this piece of paper into a sculpture. So what we're going to do, we're going to start simple version. So my kindergartners and first graders, even some second graders, can all start on the simple version, and then we'll make it a little more difficult as we move up, okay? So what you'll need is a blank piece of paper, something to color with, a crayon or a marker if you want. If you don't have those, that's okay. I have a pencil, something to write with. What we're going to start with is, and you'll need a pair of scissors. I know a lot of y'all don't have scissors, so if you don't, that's okay. You can just watch from home. We're going to start by drawing a spiral on our paper. So if you remember, when we draw a spiral, we start in the middle here and go round and round and round. So I'm going to do it in pencil and then in marker so you can see it, okay? For this project, we want kind of a fat spiral. We don't want super skinny lines together. So I'm going to start in the middle. I have a big spiral like that. All right, see how my lines in between are kind of thick? If we do a spiral that's really close together, like that, it's going to be very difficult to cut out. So we want to keep it nice and thick. Once you have this spiral down, then we are going to color it, okay? So this portion, there's no rules for this section. You can color it any way you want to. If you want a rainbow spiral or just solid red or whatever you'd like, okay? So I'm going to start with a purple crayon. I'm just going to color in around my lines, purple. So I'm just starting to color in my spiral purple. I just did this with some of my in-person students, and some of them rotated colors, so they did like blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, and that was pretty cool. So this is what I have so far. Maybe I'll switch to blue. I guess I'm accidentally doing like a rainbow. I guess I'll keep going rainbow. Rainbow. Next is green. Then I'll do some yellow. If you don't have crayons, you can still draw your spiral with a pencil or pen. We're going to end up cutting it out. Here's my yellow. Then we're going to do an orange. Then I'm gonna do some red. Okay, so not quite finished, so I'm going to switch back to blue. And then I think my last color can be purple. Okay, I'm going to outline this in marker just so you guys can see it. You don't have to do this step. Just so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so you should have a spiral and it should be colored in. It doesn't have to be colored in exactly like this, but it should be colored. So now that you have your spiral, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your scissors and you're gonna cut right along the black line that you use to create your spiral. It might be a pencil mark line, but you're gonna cut right along the actual swirl part of it, okay? So cutting right on the line that you drew. I'm gonna take my scissors. I'm gonna start on the edge here. I'm gonna go all the way around. Remember, when we're cutting, we want to turn our paper, not our scissors. So our paper should always be moving and our scissors should be still facing forward. So my scissors are pointing at you the whole time. And I'm just scooting my paper around. Okay, so I have this part so far. It looks like a little snail. I'm going to keep cutting on the black lines that I drew. I know this might be really hard for some of us, but just do your best. Move slowly. Keep your scissors pointing straight forward and move your paper around. Scissors forward, move your paper. You can go slow. Okay, and then when you're done, you should have a twisty little sculpture. Okay, so what you can do with these is you can hang them up somewhere. You can add a piece of string to the top and hang it up somewhere. You could tape it to something. So this is just your basic form of your twisty sculpture. So we created a form out of our paper. All right, so we're gonna do another version of it that is similar, but a little different. Let's do a rectangle version, and then we'll do kind of a wonky version. So we're gonna start by drawing a big rectangle. And then we are just gonna start our spiral, but make it rectangular. So I started right here, a line here, and then I just started going round and round my rectangle. Okay, so I started on the edge here, and then I just traced inside the rectangle. All right, I'm gonna use my marker to make it a little darker just so y'all can see it a little better. You don't have to do this part. So we are going to color again. Remember, you can choose any colors you want. Remember, our blues, our reds, and yellows are our primary colors. I'm going to do a little crazy colors this time. I'm not going to follow right in line. Kind of do a scribble project. And it's okay if we color outside of the lines on this one because we're going to be cutting it out eventually. Right. Here's another primary color, our yellow. Orange, that's our secondary color, right? It comes from mixing red and yellow together. I'm just going all sorts of which ways. Red, another primary color. I think we need a little bit of green. Almost finished. I'll just add a little yellow in the corner. Alright, so this version is just a crazy color version. And now we're going to cut out again. So we're going to cut around the edge to give us our long rectangle. Remember, take your time. Now that I have my rectangle, I'm going to cut right along the black lines here. Or if you have it at home, it could be pencil lines. Or crayon lines if you're using a crayon. So after I get to my edge, I'm going to turn my paper. My scissors are still pointing forward. Cut, cut, turn. Cut, cut, turn your paper. Turn your paper. Cut, 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 turn your paper. Cut, cut, turn your paper. So every time we get to the end of our little rectangle, we are turning our paper. So our scissors are always pointing forward. Cut, turn, cut, cut, turn. All right. So we should have another piece of form here. All right, it's so colorful. I really like it. So you could tape this somewhere. You could connect it to your other one so you have a little hang out together. Very beautiful. Okay, we are going to do one more, and this one's going to be a little more difficult. So for this one, we're going to be doing the spiral shape again, circle spiral, but instead of being a straight spiral the whole time, we're going to throw in a couple of zigzag and wavy lines. All right, so it'll be fun. So I'm going to start my spiral at the center of my paper. I'm going to circle out, and then I'm going to add some zigzag lines, but still connected to my spiral. Okay, so I started here, went around, and while it was connected, I did some zigzag lines. Then I'm going to keep going circle, smooth, smooth, And then I'm going to add a wavy line. So remember, wavy is just up and down. And then I'm going to keep going with my smooth line. Around and around. Okay. So I have a couple little loops on my spiral, and in between I added the zigzag and the wavy lines. All right, so now we get to color again. I think I'm going to do a scribble color version. So I'm going to take my blue, just make some crazy lines over it. Ooh, I forgot to outline it so y'all could see it a little better. Give me 1 second. While I do this, y'all can be working on your coloring. Okay, there you can see it a little bit better. I added my blues. Just gonna add some crazy. Sometimes it's fun just to scribble like crazy on your paper. And finally some green. Okay, so I just have my squiggly spiral now, and now I'm just gonna cut it out. Remember, we're cutting along the black lines, and we always keep our scissors front, towards the front. So you're gonna cut your wiggly and your zigzag lines out while you're doing this. Cut, cut, cut. We're turning our paper. Almost finished. Alright. And I just gotta cut my final black line. If you're just at home without your scissors, you could still draw this project. It just wouldn't become the bumpy sculpture piece. Okay, so now I have another swirly piece. So we have 3 swirly pieces that we did all put together. And this will be our little form, our sculpture for the day. Okay, so remember, form is something that is 3D, so we can look at all different sides of this. It has a height, it has a width, it's this wide, and it has a length. Okay, so that's our sculpture. It's 3-dimensional, 3D, and we made that just out of paper, which was 2D, so that's pretty cool. I hope you guys had fun today. You don't have to do all 3 if you don't want to. If you just want to do 1 or 2, that's totally fine. Remember to take pictures of your artwork and send it in to your teachers so I can see it as well. I've been posting student artwork on my teacher website, as well as our Instagram page, the WeFox Art Room, and our Facebook page, WeFox Art Room. I hope you guys have a great week, and it's filled with lots of art and learning and sunshine. See you guys next time. Bye.